Hi guys, so today I'm going to be talking about this book called White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. This book was written by Robin DiAngelo and published in 2018. I would 10 out of 10 recommend this book to you. I thought it was really interesting. I thought she packed a lot of information in a pretty short book, so a lot of bang for your buck. And I don't want to give too much away today, but I do kind of want to give you an overview of what the novel's about so you know what you're getting into. So first, let's start where Robin starts in the book. Let's talk about what race is. Traditionally, we have believed that race is a genetic thing, and while there are some physical attributes such as skin tone or eye shape that we can kind of point to race, those are really more geographical region indicators. So those things tell us where in the world someone is from. Another thing that she says in the book is we can tell that race is a social construct because in history people have been able to earn their whiteness or pass as white. So those are how we know that race is not genetic. And from there, she kind of talks about the title a little bit and what she means by white fragility. So to kind of tell you what that's about, I want to read you a little quote real quick from the book. So she says, "We, white people, consider a challenge to our racial worldviews as a challenge to our very identities as good moral people. Thus, we perceive any attempt to connect us to the system of racism as an unsettling and unfair moral offense." So what she's saying there is that we as white people have this tendency when we're accused of being racist to kind of bow up and say, well, I'm a good person, so I can't be racist. And what she's saying is that it's really not an issue of good versus bad people. It's much bigger than that. So if you're like me, when I first read that, I was a little confused and I didn't really understand. So what she does next is she kind of breaks down what exactly racism is. So she gives us 3 tiers of what racism is. So she starts with prejudice, which she defines as a prejudgment of someone based on their social group that they belong to. So like we talk about in social issues, we say that disparity is disparity based on your belonging to a specific social group. So that's kind of the first step, is prejudice. And then we have discrimination, which is action based on that prejudice or prejudgment. And then finally we have the third thing, which is racism. And she says that racism is a structure, not an event. So racism is, like we talked about in class, is systemic. So it's laws, it's collective prejudice, backed by legal authority and institutional control, a far-reaching system rather than discrimination, which is action based on prejudice. So what she's saying is racism is much bigger than just one person versus another person. Racism is built into our system as a society. And again, there's a lot of other really great information in here that I would love for you to pick up, but I don't want to leave you feeling hopeless. So I'd like to end by talking about kind of DiAngelo's concluding advice, what Robin says that we can really do about that, what we can do about racism. So first thing she says, you need to reflect. Reflect on what has allowed you to be a full functioning, professional, educated adult and not know what racism is. And she's not saying this to attack you. She's not saying this to make you feel uncomfortable. All she's saying is that we as white people need to stop and think about the systems that are in place that have allowed us to get this far in life without having to think about what racism is. So that's the first step, reflect. And then she says the second step is do whatever it takes to internalize these truths that she lines out for us. She gives us a whole list of them that I'd like for you to check out in full. But just to name a few, she says, and some of these we've already covered in this video. She says, 1, racism is not about good or bad. 2, racism can't be avoided, so it's systemic, it's built into our system. And then 3, I bring my group's history with me, and history is important, so know your history. So those are 3 of the truths. Again, there's a full list, but step 2 is acknowledging and kind of really committing to memory those truths. And then finally, her final piece of advice is take the initiative on your own. Go find stuff out. I would recommend starting with this book. Check it out, read through it, but then from there, watch the news, read what's going on, and really educate yourself and have these conversations. And yeah, so I would really, again, finally, really recommend this book. I will leave it in a link if anyone's interested. Thanks for watching, guys.